our landlord increased our rent by $7,000 per month.
Sisters Yumna and Khadija Farouk have lived in a midtown Toronto building for the past 3 years. Their rent was $2,500 per month. The landlord raised the rent to $3,500 a month, and when they had concerns and wanted to change their lease, the landlord raised the rent again to $9,500 per month.
Happy Tuesday, my on-time gang, and you know if it's Tuesday, you know exactly what that means. Tuesdays are tea time with Teish, and that's when we spill all the tea going on in either my life or what's going on in the world, and we're spilling the beans and getting into it today, okay? So today we're talking about the cost of living and the crazy rental prices, guys. Now, this is not just happening in Canada where I live, which more specifically like Toronto. We see it happening in Vancouver. It is crazy out here, guys. But again, it's not just happening here. It's happening literally globally. It's happening in Amsterdam. I'm seeing Australia. I saw it in the UK. And yes, we see it in America as well.
Very frustrated, of course.
For a person who doesn't have money, I think it makes a big difference.
There's like all these homeowners trying to charge people like almost $3,000 and for like such a small living space.
My rent's $1,200. Yeah, I got 4 roommates.
You can't even get an SRO now for less than, well, 750. There are some, but I mean, conditions are not livable as far as I'm concerned.
Love the city. Like, I like to live in Vancouver. It's just everything is really expensive, and the rent is the most expensive thing.
It's very little.
Yeah,
It's very little.
It's already high, so like it's like it's already up here. So if you're slowing that down, like you need more housing. You need to get to the root of it.
I want an inexpensive place to live, don't get me wrong, but I feel for landlords, I think it's actually quite reasonable, its cost of living.
Obviously there's a problem.
Yeah.
And the way that it's going up is at a ridiculous, alarming rate. Our wages are not going up, and it feels like everything is costing quadruple what it did 10 years ago. Like, I remember when 2 bedrooms were like $900. Now they're like $2,200 if you're lucky, depending on what area you live in as well. Now, I saw all these people talking about what their stuff was going up by on TikTok. So I got all these little clips for you guys to watch alongside with me. And honestly, I was shocked by some of the things I was seeing. Like, Australia, are y'all okay out there?
So I received an email from our real estate yesterday with our latest tenancy agreement for the next 12 months. So they'll be putting our rent up an extra $40 per week. So that'll bring our total rent for the week to $640. Now, we live in a beautiful location. It's a 4-bedroom home, 2-bathroom, double garage. We're a stone's throw away from the ocean. And I feel with the current rental crisis that is happening in Australia right now, we're actually pretty lucky with what we pay. However, I wanted to crunch some numbers. So for the next 12 months, we'll be paying just over $33,000 in rent. Now, my partner is self-employed, he's a carpenter, and the last 12 months, he has made roughly $70,000. If I take that $33,000, so $33,280 off the $70,000, that leaves us, as a family of 4, with $36,720 to survive on for 12 months. I get paid $136 a fortnight from the government, family tax benefit. $136 is not much to get a fortnight. So that brings our total up to $40,000, just over $40,000 to spend as a family of 4 for 12 months. Divide that by 52. That leaves us with $775 a week as a family of 4. How the hell are families surviving in this day and age without an additional source of income? Can someone explain it to me? Because honestly, if I didn't have my online business, there is no way in hell we would be able to afford where we live, what we eat. And I know people are going to come back to me and say, well, why don't you just go back to work? Why should I have to go back to work? I have an 18-month-old son and an 8-week-old daughter who are solely relying on me. And why should I have to go back to work and give up my right as a mother to raise my children? just so we can survive, just so I can afford to put them into daycare. I feel like now more than ever, it is so important to let people know that there are other options out there, that they don't have to settle for a life of struggle, that, you know, mothers can stay home, raise their children and still bring in another source of income. Forever be grateful that I took a chance on myself a little over a year ago and started my online business, because I would absolutely hate to see where we would be as a family of four if I didn't.
Have you seen the Meriton scandal? It's absolutely cooked. Basically, this shady email was leaked from the Meriton bosses in the head office to let all of their landlords know that they need to be pushing rents as hard as possible and signing 6-month leases so they can increase the rent more often. I currently live in a Meriton and our rent went up yesterday by 35%. That's $230 a week and almost $12,000 a year. I met someone yesterday in the Meriton next to us who said that they've been pushed out because their rent is going up by $1,000 a week and they're getting students in 3 to a room. That's obviously illegal, having multiple people living in the same room. Unfortunately, there is no limit to how much Meriton wants to increase the apartments every year, no limit to the percentage, and you can't do anything about it unless you want to go to the tribunal. Not fun.
My rent is going up $700 per fortnight, and yes, I have tried to negotiate. I said, just confirming that you're wanting to increase the rent by a total of $700 per fortnight. That's a considerable and confronting increase for a 3-bedroom house, shaking out to be an extra $230 per room. We'd love to come to a solution that reflects both the current market and the current financial pressure that inflation is having on us tenants. We are hoping this is negotiable and that you can revise the offer. The real estate agent wrote back. She said, I can try and negotiate with the landlord, but what are you proposing as a counter offer? Then she said, please note that the rental market is strong at the moment and we would be able to achieve the increased amount should the property be re-advertised at the moment. Kind of feels like a warning, no? I wrote back and I showed her another 3-bedroom property that I found online in Redfern. I said that this one is nicer and has 3 bathrooms, whereas our place only has 2 bathrooms. That one was on the market for $2,300 per fortnight, but what our landlord wants was $2,600 a fortnight. And then I said, given those differences, we believe that $2,100 for our property is fair per fortnight. This is still a considerable increase of $200 a fortnight, but let me know if you have any other comparable options on the market. A little over an hour later, she comes back and she says, I've spoken to the landlord and unfortunately he was very stern about not negotiating the increase. The rent has been cheap for quite some time and we are confident that we could relet the property at the increased amount. Sorry, I couldn't be a bearer of better news. Wouldn't she have known that?
I don't know about Australia. That don't seem like a safe place to live. Find something safe to do. Moving on there do not seem like one of them. Your rent is going up by the week? Like, do you guys pay bi-weekly? Is that what it is? Because I saw people's rent going up by like 50, 60, 100, $200 per week. That is crazy. First and foremost, the Canadian dollar is piss poor. So imagine the Canadian dollar now going to pay rent in places like that. I would cry.
I can't function anymore. I don't understand how I make $34 an hour and I can't function. I can't function. I can't pay my bills. I can't even literally keep gas in my car to get to work 3 days a week. I buy a loaf of rye bread and I work really hard to keep that one loaf of rye bread lasting me the whole week, and I eat peanut butter. So I'll eat peanut butter toast whenever I'm hungry. And it's been fine. It's been working just fine. I'm good with that. That's fine. But last week, I guess I was a little extra hungry a couple days, so I had toast in the morning and toast in the evening, which that's not in my budget. So I ran out of bread on like the Thursday or even the Friday, I don't know. Either way, at 47, I had to see if my mother could buy me a loaf of bread so that I could eat for the weekend before my daughter got home. I don't understand why things are so hard right now. I apparently make too much money to receive any financial benefits or help of any kind.
So a lot of these videos have been popping up on people's timelines about how there's so much struggle in Canada. I mean, this lady is saying she eats bread and peanut butter for the whole week, guys. She can't even eat it twice a day. She had to ask her mother at 47 years old. I think that's what she said. Is this the true situation in Canada, guys? I mean, she says she works 3 times a week, $30-something an hour. So maybe she's not working as much as people who are going there want to work. Because I was speaking to someone yesterday and he's saying his wife is already in Canada. She's converting a study permit to like a work permit. He's going to be going there. And I mean, they're excited about it. So let us know, people in Canada, what's really going on out there.
Let's discuss who gets priority access to Toronto's subsidized housing. There is actually only 3 types of people who get priority access stated on the website. Survivors of domestic violence and human trafficking, people who are terminally ill and have less than 2 years to live, and people who already live in housing and need to go into a smaller unit. Then there's a special shout out for applicants experiencing homelessness, youths who are 16 or 17, and vulnerable families. Now, is this actually the reality of being put into priority? No, I have literally had housing workers tell me they're at the point with the wait list where they can realistically only prioritize the first one. Survivors of domestic violence. And I also know this from first-hand experience, not only hearing this from housing workers, but actually seeing it with someone who I know who went through that case. Let me tell you what the priority access was before, when I was a little kid in Toronto, okay? If you were experiencing homelessness, it was like 3-6 months wait. If you were in a shelter, you would get the shelter identity that goes onto your account. I had that on mine. It does nothing for you now, but before, back in the day, 3 to 6 months with that priority number on your application would get you into housing. If you were a single parent, you would get into housing. If you were a single parent living in a shelter, you would get into housing. If you're pregnant and homeless, you would get into housing. There was way more accommodations for housing. But now the wait list is just ridiculously long. The fact that it says online, it's 7 to 10 years. If you want to get into Toronto housing on the beaches or Esplanade, best of luck, sweetie. That wait list there is like 20 years. Nobody's giving up that housing. So yeah, I think we might have a small problem. Maybe a small one. But then again, Doug Ford said we don't need the money with the surplus.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
How much do you pay for rent in Amsterdam?
Rent? 2,000 euros.
Oh shit! Can I see your place?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Come on. All right, yeah. Come on in. This is the place.
Oh, this is the whole place?
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, everything
How many
studio.
square feet is this?
Oh, I think 0.001 by 0.001.
All right.
Yeah, obviously my bedroom is right here. I got my living room, and I just, a little plant, quite minimalistic lifestyle. The toilet, yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, and then there's a shower. It's a shower.
Right.
Yeah.
And where do you keep your food?
My food? Oh yeah, the food. Yeah, so refrigerator is right here. Behind the toilet here, you just gotta keep it like, yeah, so because the water from the toilet actually keeps it cool. Yeah, and it works like a charm. Yeah, but hey, I mean, it's Amsterdam, right? So,
the heater?
Yeah, don't touch it. Yeah, the heat. So I actually pay more for the heat than I do the actual place.
Oh.
Yeah, that's about another 4,000 euros a month. Yeah.
On top of the 2,000.
Yeah, so I guess technically 6,000 per month I pay to live here. But it's a studio and it's in the center.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
Or like the video I seen of Amsterdam. A shoebox? I thought downtown Toronto was bad. A shoebox though? No thank you. No thank you, honey. No thank you. Now, personally, I've experienced this before where it has gone up before. Mine's actually going up in January as well. So I completely understand how some people feel. Mine is more reasonable. It's only $75, which is not the end of the world. I don't know if I can handle some people saying $950 a month. I think I would cry. I don't know how people are handling that. I know some people are not handling that. And as a matter of fact, we are headed around to this Christmas time. So now for a lot of people, it is very difficult for a lot of them. I hope that, you do have peace of mind throughout this holiday season. Make sure you prioritize your family first and your health and all those type of things, guys. I know a lot of the times we want to make our kids happy and, see them smile on Christmas Day. But if you got to prioritize your house, like where you live, please do so. I remember growing up, we were actually evicted twice out of apartments that I lived in with my mom. And I remember seeing those pink slips come in. and seeing it on her face, how frustrated and how disappointed she was in herself, and that she was not doing a great job. First and foremost, to all my parents out there that are struggling and trying to do the most for their family and their kids, we do see you. Thank you so much for all the sacrifices that you guys do make. If nobody has told you that today, thank you for all the stuff that you do.
This message is for the millennials, specifically the mid to late millennials. You guys fall in the neighborhood of late 20s to early 40s. Especially if you're the ones that did everything your parents asked you to do, right? You went to college or you went to a trade school, and then you finally get your big boy or big girl job, right? And you start to get your coins up, and then boom, the economy goes to shit, and here we are. And you can't afford to buy a house. It's difficult to rent. Interest rates are sky high. Groceries are higher than ever. And so I just want you to know that the next time you hear someone in your family that's in my generation, I'm 60, discount the fact that it's harder for you than it was for us, I want you to show them this video, because I'm going to share a few statistics from when I was your age. So listen, I got my first apartment in 1986. It was $675 a month. It was a 1-bedroom. 1-bedrooms in California right now are going for somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,900 to $2,000. That's the average. It can get higher and it can get lower, but the average is somewhere around $2,000 a month for a 1-bedroom. Then in 1992, I bought my first house in Southern California for $178,000. The interest rate was like a 7.5%, and it was in a great neighborhood. At the time, I was making $21,000 a year, and I think my ex-husband might have been making somewhere around $30,000 a year at best. We had 2 cars. We had money to spare, money to save. There was plenty of money left over, and 2 kids. So what prompted me to do this video is I saw a creator this morning. He looked to be about my age, and he's going on this tangent. And he's saying, millennials, y'all just lazy, and we did this and we did that. It is not the same. It is apples and oranges, okay? So some of us do see you. We recognize that. I have kids that are millennials. My son is 35 and my daughter's 32. I know what you guys are facing. Okay, I still encourage you, whatever little bit of money you have left, save it. I stick to that. But we also know that these are different times. And so for those of you in my generation, knock it off, because y'all know damn well these kids are not facing the same things that we faced in the 80s. All right? Love y'all. Bye.
The cost of living in 2023 is so bad that I'm pretty sure I actually was better off financially when I was making minimum wage in 2012 versus me making almost $100,000 today. In 2012, I lived with my roommate in a 2-bedroom apartment, and our rent was $700. So we paid $350 each. I paid maybe $150 a month for groceries. Our utilities were maybe $100 a month for everything. And my take-home pay, making minimum wage, was probably, I don't know, $1,300, $1,400 a month. After all of my expenses and necessities, I had so much money left over. I mean, not like a lot of money, but like several $100s left over. I was able to go out to eat multiple times per week. I mean, nothing fancy, but like I was still able to go out. I was able to like go shopping. I really liked buying makeup and clothes, and I was able to do that. Now in 2023, I pay $3,300 a month for rent in British Columbia. Obviously split in 2, so I pay $1,650 of that. Utilities are at least $200 or $300 a month. I have a student loan payment, several $100s a month. I had to move outside the city, so now I have to have a car. I have, like, gas prices are ridiculous. Car insurance in British Columbia. It adds up. And obviously I am making a decent salary. I can afford it. But I really feel like I had a lot more disposable income in 2012 when I was making minimum wage.
I do remember on Christmas time as well, though, we got everything we wanted. It didn't matter what it was. She made a way and found a way to make it happen. And we also remember that too. So, I mean, there's good and bad in choosing whichever way it does go. But I know for this holiday season, while it is overwhelming for a lot of people, it is my hope that at least when it comes to your bills, they're being taken care of. And it is my prayer for you that God sends a financial breakthrough for you and those around you and your loved ones. And I'm really hoping that, you know, even if you're in a shelter right now, maybe you're struggling and you had to leave your home because you couldn't afford it and you already are in a shelter.
Why are there people sleeping in the airport at Boston Logan? Look, those are beds and people sleeping in the airport at Boston Logan. What is going on?
171,000 people are homeless every night in California. It's something Australians need to see, because if we don't solve our housing crisis, this is the future our cities are facing too.
The epicentre of San Francisco's homelessness problem is here in the Tenderloin, where tents fill the footpaths and crime is a constant problem.
In downtown Los Angeles, Skid Row has similarly been a no-go zone for decades, but it's a different story in the suburbs of both cities. Here in the heart of Hollywood, dozens of RVs line the street outside Warner Brothers studios. So-called vanlords charge around $1,000 Australian dollars a month for these RVs. The median monthly rent for a one-bedroom apartment is almost 4 times higher. A landmark homelessness study by Dr. Margot Kushel recently found that the dominant factor in people ending up on the streets was the extraordinary cost of housing. She has a blunt message for Australia: don't make the same mistakes as California.
The answer to the homelessness crisis, it's providing enough housing that is affordable. The time to start doing that is now.
It is my prayer and my hope for you that you will get a home of your own to call your own one day. So without further ado, let's watch all these crazy videos together, guys, because I'm telling you, what I was seeing was nuts.
Imagine you got an email from your landlord telling you that they are going to raise your rent by $300 with 4 weeks notice, and if you're not cool with it, they're going to start searching for a new tenant. Well, it just happened to my client. I have a client who's renting a 2-bedroom in a not rent-controlled building. On September 3rd, my client got an email from the listing agent of the property she's in, subject new rental fee from October 1st, 2023. Instant red flag. We all know you need to give 90 days for a rental increase, and that 90 days is from the first date of the rental period, so that would bring them to January 1st. Due to government increase interest rate 9 times last year, the rental could not cover mortgage, so we need to increase the rental from October 1st, 2023. And then they sent some comps justifying that the rental is worth $33, but they're gonna give them a discount of $32. Then they get an email from the landlord, who, by the way, is now for the first time contacting them directly in 1 year, essentially saying the same thing. We appreciate you as a tenant and would like to offer you the option to continue leasing the property beyond this date. It is not an option. A lease automatically goes onto a month-to-month tenancy if the tenant does not give 60 days notice to the landlord. And if you choose to extend your lease, the new monthly rent will be $3,200 starting from October 1st. This adjustment is necessary due to high mortgage rates, which have made it challenging for us to cover all expenses with the current rental rate. Let us know if this new rental rate is acceptable to you. If you decide not to continue renting the property, we will begin the process of finding a new tenant with their move-in date scheduled for October 1st, which is less than a month away. Obviously, I was very angry about this and sent a scathing email to the landlord and the listing agent CCing my clients, essentially telling them, A, you need to give 90 days notice, which would be January 1st, 2024, and B, you have no right to start looking for a new tenant if they don't notify you that they're extending their lease, because it automatically extends. With respect to the mortgage payments, I don't think landlords understand that their rising mortgage payments are not their tenant's problem. You, as a variable rate borrower, took on the risk that your mortgage payments may change. Because it's gone up, even though it's gone up an unexpected and unprecedented amount, you cannot put that problem on anyone except yourself and the Bank of Canada. A variable rate mortgage is a risk. And if you take on that risk, then you have to be prepared to deal with the consequences. Thankfully, my email back to them was successful and they're cool with our terms. Obviously, it doesn't end here. I got an email a couple days ago from the listing agent saying that they're seeking my assistance regarding several issues that were raised in an email below. They opened the email by asking me if I've had the opportunity to meet the tenants in person, because it's come to their attention that one of them may not currently be in Toronto. Sorry, Am I supposed to tell my landlord when I go on vacation? Because I didn't, no one told me that. Then they go on to mention that there was some sort of communication from the building that had a different name on it associated with the unit number, and that the unit should only be occupied by the tenants as specified in the rental application form during the lease term. For starters, you do not need consent from your landlord if you wanted to add an occupant. So if like I was renting somewhere and my boyfriend wanted to move in, I don't need to tell my landlord and I don't need their permission. This is such a clear example of how so many agents and also property owners have absolutely no idea about the Residential Tenancies Act and about the rules. I don't understand. It is literally your job as both an agent and a landlord to understand these things. How can you just like blatantly disregard everything and then try to like impose your own rules?
Besides the fact that I'm extremely struggling to pay my rent every month, you know how I realized that it's really, really bad out here? I live in the hood, okay? I live in the hood. The hood. Garbage everywhere. People's dogs not tied up. Pit bulls running around. Litter, dog poop. People riding bikes. Women of the night down the block. Like, I've been living here for a year and a half. And when I first moved in, it was 100% black, like 100% black people. And now, I was just walking my dog and this white guy was like, to me, dead ass. Now, all of a sudden, I've seen at least 4 of the apartments taken by white people. And this is like the cheapest spot in town. Also, some Hispanics have moved in as well. Like, when I first moved in here, there was a white girl that lived here. But I feel like when I realized everything changed, when I seen white men moving in here, I was like, oh shit, it's bad out there. It's bad. And I'm actually scared, guys, for my lease being up in January. I'm very scared. I'm very scared for what's gonna happen.
So we've just had our first people come round to view our flat. We currently pay £935 a month for our 1-bed flat, and the estate agent has just come in and they're putting it up to £1,200. That's not including bills or council tax. That's just revolting. Like, it's not a big flat, like it's not small, but it's not £1,200 for a 1-bed flat, excluding bills, I think is mental. God, I'm so glad that I'm not having to find a new place to live in the UK. Jesus.
I just got a letter from my housing association telling me the rent's gone up. I have to pay for communal electricity supply. But why? Because you need to give me light for me to walk up and down the stairs. Then there's pest control I have to pay for. I'm not the one who brought the mouse here. Why am I paying?
If you don't know what yard is, sorry, Jamaica, I would honestly pick up my stuff and move to Jamaica and have my little mango tree and my chickens running around. I would, that's okay. No, thank you.
My landlord is trying to increase my rent by $350 a week. When I received this email about a month ago now, we basically tried to negotiate with the landlord and real estate agent and just try and find a happy medium or a middle ground that wasn't as aggressive as $350 a week. Essentially, we were told this is not negotiable. Obviously, as a household, we freaked out. We had to sit down, talk about our limited options in this market. Because the real estate agent and landlord had said, we're not budging on this $350 a week figure, only then did we, after much deliberation, decide we're going to have to take this to tribunal if we want to stay living here. Quite a bit has happened since then. Not going to get into it in this video, but there's quite a bit to catch everyone up on. Anyway, basically, it was really, really stressful in the beginning. Like, no one wants to go down this path. We tried not to, but at this point, we are feeling really confident and really good about taking this to tribunal. So Fingers bloody crossed.
And now, while this may be like this on, North America side, coming from China and Asia, it's something completely different. Now, I found somebody talking about it and explaining why it is like this. So let's watch this together.
No one wants to talk about it. No one's living in these places. Yeah. Where's the money coming from? No one wants to talk about it. No one's living in these places. Yeah. Where's the money coming from? I don't know.
Okay, so my name is Yana, and I own my own business. No, I'm not trapped. I'm in my basement. Nobody's kidnapped me. So because I own my own business, I do a lot of manufacturing overseas in China. And everyone that I interact with is Chinese. Over the course of the last couple months, couple years, I managed to build friendships with some of these people. And I've actually asked them, what's the deal with like Asian people coming into Canada and purchasing houses? From what I understand, Asian people as a whole, not just in China, but in Japan, India, what they do is they purchase homes in other countries to use as bank accounts. Specific to China, the Chinese government doesn't allow their people to purchase other currencies except up to a specific amount per year. And I think it's like literally like even if you're a Asian billionaire, you can only purchase like 30,000 Canadian dollars per year in like doing like the transaction. And the way that these people get around it is by buying property. So what happens is they buy a bunch of houses, they have it in Canada. So when they send their kids here, they transfer the property into their children's name because a lot of them come for schooling and stuff. The kids sell one or two of like the 100 houses that they have. And that's how they're able to transfer their wealth from China, getting around government restrictions, I guess, to set up their families in Canada. And the biggest problem is, from what I understand, or what I've been told, is that Asian people do not like to rent. Specifically Chinese people who purchase homes in Canada, they do not like to rent their properties to the general public, like Canadian citizens.
I'm sorry, did you guys know all these things prior to this? I just learned this recently. I had no idea that it was like this. And I think that's so unfair. And I know for Canada, they did put a ban on buying homes for a few years to kind of help with this problem. But my God, that's actually crazy and that's extremely unfair, to be honest.
4 billion people couldn't fill all of China's empty homes. What's going on? In a rare show of public criticism, a former Chinese official has blasted the country's property crisis, saying that even China's population of 1.4 billion people would not be enough to physically fill up all the empty sites. He Keng, a former deputy head of China's Statistics Bureau, who made the comments, said some experts estimate even 3 billion people couldn't fill the country's vacant homes. Calculations of the total floor area of unsold empty homes stands at 648 million square meters. That equals over 7 million homes based on an average home size. These estimates don't even include projects where properties have been sold but left incomplete, or homes purchased years ago that remain vacant. The property crisis comes down to a slowing market in recent years due to real estate giants and developers falling deeper into debt, along with harsher regulations on borrowing new money. Recently, shares in Evergrande, one of China's biggest property developers, dropped by over 25% and is facing over $500 million of debt. The deeper the debt, the more unlikely they are to pay contractors and workers to finish the developments, leaving homes unfinished. Last year, hundreds of thousands of homeowners refused to pay their mortgages on properties abandoned in the construction phase.
I think it's crazy because now with regard to China, it's literally the complete opposite. Like, you don't have enough people. I guess we're all moving to China then. And honestly, I did see this couple talk about moving there and how their quality of life is a lot better. They got a VPN for their Wi-Fi. They were saying they work for themselves anyway, so income's not a problem when it comes to jobs. And I know people were talking about like the air and stuff like that. They mentioned that they do not live in a polluted area like Beijing, for example. It's not the city that they live in. So they said that their quality of life is actually pretty good. But yeah, like this don't seem so bad to me.
Why have backyards disappeared in new suburbs? In Australia's new housing estates, most houses have tiny or non-existent backyards. Let's compare these two streets in northwest Sydney. One with a typical 1980s house covering 50% of the block, and on the opposite street, a brand new house covering 80% of the block. Now, you might think the backyard has disappeared because of greedy developers, and while that's kind of the case, the reason's actually much more complex. Did you know Australia builds the largest new houses in the world on average, outdoing outdoing even the United States. In fact, the average house size has ballooned from 165 square metres in the 1980s to 235 square metres today. Yet, over the past 10 years, the average new land size has shrunk in Australian cities. In Sydney, it's shrunk by 20%. Australians are opting for more luxurious housing at the cost of the backyard. But why? The answer lies in suburban sprawl. Because we're so spread out, we now have to internalise a lot of the services you'd otherwise have access to in the city. Home cinemas replace movie theatres, and the need for multiple cars and larger garages arises as schools and businesses become much more distant. Meaning hello big house and goodbye to the backyard. But is this the right direction? Should we continue on this trend? I want to hear your thoughts below. I'll be covering across on why this is allowed to happen in a future video, so follow if that sounds interesting to you.
This is what being priced out can look like. People are actually camping out in their RVs because rent is so unaffordable in this city. So we've just spotted this, which looks like a structure on top of the back of a truck. Hello? What's your name?
It's Chris.
Chris, come on down if you don't mind. When did you build it?
6-7 months now.
So you've been living in here for 6 or 7 months?
Yeah. Yeah, it was a nice summer though.
Can you take me up there just with my iPhone and show me like a little bit of like...
If you don't mind.
I can hop up. Chris Kazmir Kazak says he works in construction, building homes in Vancouver.
All right, here we go.
Okay.
It's a little messy, but
there you go. You get your laptop here.
Yeah.
You got your food. Irony is, he can't afford one himself, so he built this makeshift home. So this beats paying rent.
No, but for what I'm willing to spend, yeah, right. At the prices, yeah, it's the only option if I want to make enough money to not be broke when I'm old.
Today in Vancouver, to comfortably afford a one-bedroom apartment, your salary needs to be about $109.
First of all, where do these people think we're getting the money from? The air? Like, I don't know. Even like content creators, for example, like I remember seeing people saying it doesn't matter if you have millions or hundreds of thousands of followers. A lot of people are not getting paid what they're claiming to get paid anyway. So I don't know.
$1,000 and $98,000 in Toronto. It's not just these two cities. London, Ontario, a one-bedroom is nearly $1,800. Take a look across the country, just over $1,600 in Montreal. In Calgary, about $1,500. In Halifax, the average one-bedroom goes for almost $2,000. So, where does that leave those who earn less?
I just got off the phone with a gentleman who was...
And I think I'm one of those people that if I actually had the ability to go back home and not have to pay for nothing, I deadass would.
26 years old who makes I'm gonna say that, but I got information that I told him I was gonna share. I said I was gonna make a TikTok about it because this is what's wrong currently in the housing market, okay? Gentleman calls me, young, doing great things in his life, and I did ask permission to share certain details. He's married, he has a kid, and he's looking to move to Delaware. Now, this person has flown through their career, done exceedingly well. And now between him and his wife now working a educational job, making about 45 grand, their household income is gonna be 165 grand. 165 grand. Now, both of them took on a little bit of student debt through college to get into their careers. Both own a vehicle, and both are paying for childcare for this child that you wouldn't believe what it costs to get a kid through preschool these days. I digress. So I have a conversation with this young man. And by the end of the conversation, I say young man like I'm 3 or 4 years older than him, but I have a conversation with this man who I saw a lot of myself in. And I remember being able to have that conversation with a real estate agent, buy a property. I had to tell this man based off of his debt and based off of what he was making, based off a couple other questions that I won't divulge, that he would be able to afford a $287,000 to about $290,000 house based off some math that I was doing. Now that is vulgar. That's disgusting that somebody who's doing that well in their life, somebody who has that much financial awareness to get to that point in their life so quickly. Also, this person has reserves and has savings that it's not $1 billion. Obviously, they don't need a mortgage if they got that, but they do, and they've done so responsibly. They've gotten great jobs. They're working hard. It's disappointing to me that we are now in an ecosystem that is cool with and a government, a situation here in the housing market where we're just fine with People not being able to have shelter. Like, these people have to move for their job. I'm telling them, you make over $150,000 and I can't get you a mortgage that's gonna get you into a reasonable house in a reasonable area in a reasonable school district. That doesn't really seem fair to me. It doesn't sit well with me. And the problem with it is because that person now is looking to the rental market, and what are they seeing? They're not seeing a lot. They're seeing a lot of high prices. They're not seeing a lot of inventory available, just like home buying. And these people are now thinking, what are we gonna do? And there's so many people across the country who are thinking that exact question for many different reasons, but all feeling stuck where they're at and thinking, what am I going to do next? What am I gonna do now? And frankly, I didn't have an answer for them right on that call. We are gonna have a talk with the lender. We are gonna get into the details of their finances and work with them to improve their credit, to get them to where they need to be, possibly debt to income wise, to get them to about $350,000, $400,000 house, but even still then interest rates are high. That's still gonna be a mortgage payment that's well above $2,500, which they can afford. But regardless, the first home that you buy with your family, especially when you put your finances, financial ducks in a row, your money ducks are all lined up in a row, that's that attention. At 26 years old, you and your family, and you're being told you can't get that first step done. You can't get your own slot of dirt here in America, here in Delaware. You can't get your own roof above your head. You can start putting equity into your American dream, your white picket fence and a dog and a kid and a half. You can't start that. Why? Well, because you don't make enough money. Oh, how much do you make? Over 150 grand? And that's not everybody, I'm telling you right now. But if you don't make more than 100 grand right now, household buying a home, pretty much impossible. 120 is really where we get started. And if you have any bit of debt to help you have gotten there, such as student debt, that could be a detriment to you. Credit card debt could be a detriment to you. Maybe not. You should always have that conversation. But in this particular situation, guys, I'm just a little bit fired up, because I believe that the youth are doing great things. Young millennial Gen Z are doing insanely great things in their careers, in their moves financially, and there's just so many blockades set up right now that are just not allowing progress for all the hard work, and so they're getting deemed lazy. Go work harder, get a third job. Piss off. There's so many people working their ass off, and this scenario right now in this economy is just not giving them the opportunity to take the very same steps that your parents took, that your grandparents took, and now these people right here today that are getting out of college, that are moving away from their families, or at least trying to, are being told they can't, even though technically they're in the top 5% of income earners by their age bracket. But
as Canada's housing crisis burns on, some small landlords say they are facing outrageous cash for keys demands. That's an informal deal where a landlord pays a tenant to vacate a property if, for example, they need to move back in or sell the property. It's legal, and in theory, it should work well for both sides. But as I found out working on this story for The National, cash for keys offers are becoming a lot more common, and tenants are sometimes asking for a lot of money to leave. We talked to this tenant advocate who said, good, they should.
Landlords have been using their rights to get a good deal for decades. Through the entire rental crisis that we're going through, landlords have been, opening the caviar and popping the champagne.
More on that in a sec. So what is a lot? Here's one paralegal we spoke with who handles cash for keys deals.
We have some tenants who ask for $100,000. Some tenants who are asking for the landlord to buy a plot of land for them. We have other tenants who are asking for the landlord to purchase a property for them.
We also spoke to several small landlords in this situation who say it's been devastating. So why is this happening now? Looking at Ontario, if a tenant doesn't want to leave or stops paying rent, a landlord would need to get an eviction order from the Landlord and Tenant Board. And until that happens, the tenant has the right to stay. But there's a major backlog at the board, nearly 40,000 cases as of last spring. Sometimes the wait is longer than some landlords can afford, and so it's cheaper to settle, and some tenants have figured that out. Now there's obviously a huge flip side to this story. Rent prices are soaring across the country, and advocates say it's about time tenants have more of the upper hand.
Any landlord complaining to me about the Landlord and Tenant Board can go pound sand. Look, a lot of these people, myself included, are paying tens of thousands of dollars for a place to live, a place to rent. When you pay that money, it doesn't just go into the ether. You get rights for that.
Everybody wants to move to Texas for the low cost of living until they realize we don't have any rent control regulations here. So that means whenever it's time for your lease to be renewed, these properties can basically charge you whatever they want to charge you. I've seen prices go up by $100 for the same unit just because they can. And this is more prevalent in properties that have a reputation for bad management. So this is something to think about if you're thinking of moving to Texas. Now, if you're looking to move anywhere in Texas within the next 60 days, my name is Chastity. I'm an apartment locator. I locate for all over Texas. You could click the link in my bio, send in a consultation form, and I can send you a list of properties just like that.
Do you want to know what's insane?
My grandfather came to this country with $1 in his pocket. $1. $1. And he made for himself, within his 60 years of life, a beautiful life. Successful. He owned multiple homes, started multiple businesses, put all of his children through college, paid for their weddings, and these were elaborate, expensive, luxurious weddings. Now, my mother, my father, successful. They have, a life for themselves. They've owned multiple businesses. They have, vehicles and are able to pay for their life expenses. They put all of us through college. They're still putting my siblings through college. And if and when I want a wedding, they'll be able to fund that for me. At least I think so, right? My aunts, both of them, they have homes. They have, good lives for themselves. Nobody is living shittily. But the crazy thing is, I cannot envision myself ever owning a home, ever being able to afford a car or pay bills. And it's crazy, okay? I have a full-time job. I work sometimes I'm working 55 hours a week. Sometimes I work more than that. Like, I literally am always working, constantly working. And in my mind, it is just super inconceivable to ever meet the threshold of being super financial and stable in the finances that I have to, one, afford a life that I think is A, sustainable, but also comfortable, and B, do anything outside of the realm of bare necessity. And I told my husband this today, and he was like, you know what? I feel like what our parents achieved yesterday will never be our reality. And it's gonna just take us a lot longer to get there. And I don't know why people constantly want to talk about the work ethic of young people. Because if anything, I feel like young people are just constantly working. But the only difference here is that you're constantly working, and for what? At the end of my pay cycle, I have money, but I don't have any of the other things that older generations were afforded. I don't have the security. I don't have the promise of being able to build a life for myself. Do you guys realize what it means that so many young people don't even have in their mind the concept of being able to be homeowners? And it's not just a thought, right? That's the reality. The cost of living is outpacing wages. People cannot provide for the families that they do have, let alone start families at all. And it's just so sad, because if you talk to somebody that's of a different generation, not, millennials or Gen Z or Gen X, whatever the fuck we are, if you talk to a boomer, they're just gonna say that you're not working hard enough. But there's no amount of hard work that can get us out of the predicament that we're in. And it's super scary. And it's frustrating, so.
This guy that goes around Toronto and interviews homeless people, and he's like, what got you here? And this girl was so articulate, and she was like, yeah, I lost my apartment because I lost my job, and now we camp around in tents, but she just seemed like a normal human. And it broke my heart, because I understand a lot of homelessness is mental health, which obviously still very much breaks my heart. But it's your average citizen that was just very much working a normal job, had her own apartment, and just simply is homeless because of the fact that our economy doesn't allow her to be able to afford anything if she's a single girl.
So a couple of weeks ago, our landlord told us that he wants to increase the rent by £200 for the entire property. Our tenancy is coming up for renewal, which is why this has been brought up now, and many people are facing the similar situation with a hike in rent increase because of all the stuff that's going on with inflation and the property market at the moment. However, this has particularly infuriated me and my flatmates because our landlord is nothing short of a grade A CUNT. When I saw the rent increase email, I honestly just saw red, because it just proves that landlords can really do whatever the fuck they want. Because in our property since October last year, we've had a leak coming from the ceiling, as in an active leak. It's constantly dripping, which has now caused black mold. So this is the black mold in question. I think it's black mold. All I know is that it's mold and it's black, ergo black mold. We have mold growing in other areas of the house. In several areas of the house, the paint is peeling because the walls are damp internally. So there's some sort of leak going on in the rest of the structure of the house. The electrics where the leak is obviously completely fucked. The lights won't turn on because there's literal water leaking into the light bulbs constantly. Our living room is also built on a manhole, which in 2021 caused it exploded basically and flooded the entire downstairs. The whole downstairs had to get redone, and even with the downstairs getting redone, the paint is still peeling, and they haven't sealed that manhole properly, meaning that often we get a waft of sewage smell coming into this living room. There are a bunch of other more minor issues, but the audacity of like increasing the rent without taking any action to actually improve any of these issues it's just disgusting. I absolutely hate being in a position where you have a problem and it feels like you're completely powerless to do anything about it. So I try to, number one, I hate that I've had to like kill them with kindness, because if we aggravate him, he gets really pissed off. And one time he's literally screamed at me on my doorstep because I asked to make a copy of a garden key. Like, he literally threatened me. And we've also learned from his temperament that if we, list things how they are and be honest and real, again, he takes it badly. So I had to write this completely fake email being like, oh, we understand you've not had the time because you're a property empire billionaire who, is just so busy with all his other properties that he can't come and fix the black mold in our house. But we think the rent increase is slightly too much, all things considered. And realistically, I don't even think that's going to do anything or have the desired result. I even called Citizens Advice to understand what our rights are as renters, and honestly, it's just so limited. Like, you would think that, a landlord, if we're paying this rent, whatever, I'll buy it because I have to. I can't afford to buy my own place. But your duty as a landlord should be to maintain the property so that there's no health risks, but also so that it's a comfortable and nice place to live. However, the majority of landlords just aren't doing that. Or maybe it's not a majority, but I just hear a lot of people complaining about how ill or poor maintained their property is, in spite of us having to pay ridiculous rent. From Citizens Advice, I basically learned that there's not really much we can do about it. So we've tried to negotiate it down and then using that as an opportunity to get him to solve the issues. However, he can still turn around and say no. And if we don't want to pay it, then we just essentially have to get, no fault eviction and have to go elsewhere. The agent that I spoke to also said, in terms of the mold and everything like that, we could get someone from environmental health to come over and they will assess it. And then if they think it needs to be actioned soon, they'll give him an improvement notice. However, this brings up the same issue again of aggravating the landlord to the point where, so if he's served an improvement notice, he can't evict us for 6 months, but I'm pretty sure you can guess what's going to happen at the end of the 6 months. Eviction. And some people will probably ask, why don't you just move? And we did consider that, but when we've looked at the market, again, at the moment, the market is awful. Essentially, we would be paying more for a significant downgrade, and there's also no guarantee that the next landlord will be any better. Pretty much all the landlords I've had since I've been living in London have been terrible and equally as bad when it comes to resolving issues on the property. So yeah, I just feel so frustrated and fed up with this. Like, okay, buy as many properties as you want, but I just think it's disgusting how ill-maintained so many properties are. And it's like, you're really fucking with people's livelihood. Like, we're in a position where we're having to beg for you to make it a nicer place to live on basic things. Like, we're not asking for fancy painting or furniture. We're literally just asking for there not to be black mold or smells or things that would pretty much disrupt most people's living conditions when we're paying so much rent as well. Part of me wants to set up some sort of like website or reporting system where tenants can anonymously name and shame bad landlords and outline the issues. Because at this point, it's like, I don't know what we can do, because as I said, we're in a powerless situation where the options are deal with it or leave. And both of those are stressful because if you stay here and stick with it, obviously you're having your livelihood impacted, potential health risks associated with things like mold. But then if you're moving, as I said, there's a whole host of other issues and uncertainties that come with that.
I just want to lighten up the mood a little bit for somebody watching this that might feel a little bit discouraged to either move out, purchase their own home, or do anything of that sort. Please take a leap of faith if that's what you feel like life has planned for you. My channel is called Never Late 28, and that's because I believe we're never late for anything that is supposed to be for us in life. I call my viewers on here OTG, which stands for On Time Gang, and that's because I thoroughly believe we're on time for whatever it is that life has planned out for us. Whatever God wants us to have, we are going to have it. So if it is in your heart, if God has laid it on you to know that you are going to have home ownership and things like that, even if it's next week or next year, do not let any of these things discourage you. I feel like a lot of this is put out here though just to be an eye-opener, especially for younger people or even those that are intimidated to go back home and save your money at least until you're financially prepared to live by yourself. I feel like it showcases a lot of that, but it also kind of shows you of we're not the only ones going through these things, and there does need to be some regulation about it because it's just getting harder and harder. However, again, this message right now that I'm doing for those of you that are looking to move out or purchase anything, Godspeed. I really hope that you will achieve whatever it is that your heart desires. You deserve it. We all deserve to have some type of comfort and a roof over our head, and that is my biggest hope for anybody that is watching this.
Okay, listen to this. Listen, okay? Average Canadian income, $54,000. Median Canadian income, $41,000. Average home price in Canada, $720,000. Toronto now. Average income of 25 to 34-year-olds in Toronto, $54,000. Median income of that same group, $44,000. Average home sold price in the GTA, Greater Toronto Area, $1.2 million. Lastly, average GTA condo sold price, $750,000.
I know for some people this is just entertainment. For some people it might be funny, some people might be scary, some people might be a little frustrating for them, but I do want everyone to understand you're not alone going through stuff like this. It clearly is a global problem, and hopefully sometime soon we're going to see some regulations behind it. Again, in Canada they put some bans on it to kind of help our situation. I don't really know what it is like for the rest of the world. If you want to leave a comment down below, please do, and let us know what is it like in your city. Where do you live? Is the renting cost okay? Because even that video with Houston, that was crazy. I wanted to move to Texas at one point in time. Come yeah, I can afford that, I'll be all right. But then the girl is saying it doesn't matter because you'll move in 6 months later, boom, your rent is up again. Nowhere is safe, honey. That is nuts. But I really hope that for somebody out there, it will get better for you, at least financially, so you can afford it that you want. And I mean, even like the last girl said, it's not even about your income anymore, because some people are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, have really good careers, and they still cannot afford those things. Man, oh man, oh man. Well, I really hope that you guys did enjoy today's video alongside with me. I know that was a lot to take in for a lot of people, but Lord have mercy, something's gotta give. And if you are new here, thank you for watching. If you are returning, thank you so much for viewing once again. I hope you guys, like I said, enjoyed today's content. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe for some more. Go ahead and leave a like so it helps the algorithm. It is for free. It ain't gonna cost you nothing but your time. Just smash that like button for me, pretty please. Thank you so much. And leave a comment down below whether you are renting or not. Let me know what your situation is like or how you found this type of content. Please leave a comment down so that I know. Other than that, have a wonderful Tuesday. I'll be uploading another video tomorrow for you guys. Bye.